What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have an album review for you. So another one that came out on the 30th that I was pretty curious about because I was a fan of this band for a while and they kind of just disappeared, was the latest offering and first one in about 11 years from Before the Dawn, Stormbringers. This again comes out on the 30th of June on Napalm Records. This band formed in 1999 in Finland. This is their 8th album overall and their first one in, again, about 11 years. They broke up in 2013, about a year after the release of Rise of the Phoenix, which I thought was a pretty decent album. I actually even have Death Star Rising, which I thought was pretty good too. And for those that don't know, this is straight up melodic death metal, features members of Swallow the Sun, Dawn of Solace, and Wolfheart, namely Tuomas Sarkonen. I'm sorry if I'm gonna get names wrong here. This is Finnish, so it's generally difficult, and these are kind of easier ones to say in terms of the names that I have picked out, but I'm probably still gonna butcher them. Anyway, he is the main guy behind Wolfheart, which I think is a really awesome melodic death metal act, and I believe this band actually predates Wolfheart. This was actually his solo project for a while. But this one is different where they have a new vocalist, one Paavo Lapati. I think I said that right, maybe? He joined upon their reformation and he does all of the vocals in here, where Tuomas did all the vocals before. And interestingly enough, Tuomas is also doing drums as well as rhythm guitars on here, and I also believe he does a lot of the synths on here too. Now, I didn't know this. I didn't actually listen to any singles when this came out, so I just assumed that, you know, it would be Tuomas pretty much heading up this project because, again, this was like his solo project. I couldn't imagine him not, you know, essentially fronting this. So I was a little surprised to hear clean vocals all over the place. In fact, I would say this album is about like 70-30 when it comes down to clean vocals to harsh vocals. After you get past the intro, The Dawn, which, I mean, as far as intros, it's not terrible. Actually, it kind of turns into a synthwave song kind of halfway through. You get a lot of pulsating synths and like kind of these war drums, and then it, I don't know, again, kind of just shifts into like a synthwave song that honestly I could have stood to listen to for a little bit longer, but then it explodes into the song Destroyer, which, you know, comes out of the gates very aggressive, like lots of, you know, great mellow death riffs. There's good layering with the synths, and that is definitely all over this album. And then when the vocals kick in, I'm a little shocked to the point where I legit had to pick up the copy of the album that I had and look. I was like, oh wait, no, he's new. And that did kind of throw me off because I was expecting this to be more dominated by harsh vocals, because the music itself is very melodic, very catchy, like very much in the vein of, I would say, like Dark Tranquillity, mid-period In Flames. Like, it definitely has that mid-2000s sort of like melodeath feel. Even in the production here I think is really good, like very lush, very full sounding, very well mixed, you know, nice amount of polish on it. I mean, honestly, it checks off a lot of things that I was into in terms of like mid-2000s melodic death metal. And, you know, as the album went on, like it has like a more melancholy vibe, like it's kind of dark and dreary, like there's a steady fog hanging over the fucking album and everything's kind of morose feeling. But I kept circling back to the vocals because the vocals are the big change for me. And again, I really wasn't expecting that. And vocally, I don't know, like this one is odd. I think Pablo might have like a bit of a limited range when it comes down to clean vocals. His roars on here are really solid. When they pop up, they are very, I don't know, like authoritative. They're very triumphant. They're very powerful. But when it comes down to his cleans, I feel like they're a little bit nasal and he kind of hangs in one register a lot, like occasionally kind of ramping it up a bit, but it's kind of flat. And with the more polished production, you know, the vocals are very out in front. In fact, there's a lot of moments on here where they isolate them, like they drop out the guitars and have like lush synths in the background, or like a drum beat, or like a drum and bass groove. But it seems like they want to showcase that this is their new guy and he's going to be taking over all the vocal duties. In fact, I actually looked again just to see if Tuomas did any of the roars on here, and at least according to the liner notes, he didn't. I mean, he was busy doing drums and guitars and, you know, a lot of other stuff in here. And possibly one of the reasons I think that might be is maybe he wants to make sure that this sounds different than Wolfheart, because Wolfheart plays a very similar style, albeit more aggressive. And B, he wants to give a new person a chance to take the helm as far as vocals and being the frontman. And this is essentially a rebirth of the band, a new dawn, so to speak. But the problem is that this really sounds just, again, very rooted in a style that has been played a lot before, and it doesn't add like a clever wrinkle that kind of makes it its own. Like, you know, in terms of like Finnish melodic death metal, you know, two of the bands I think of like right off the top of my head, and honestly I think are probably, you know, two of the best in that subset are Insomnium and Omnium Gatherum. Now Insomnium has, you know, their own wrinkle where they add a lot of folky elements and like almost progressive writing. It makes their music stand out a little bit more, and Omnium Gatherum squeezes in pop and fucking like happy melodies and such, and it makes them unique. It actually kind of adds like a level of charm to what they do. This band really kind of doesn't have that wrinkle. A lot of the stuff on here is, again, like very much rooted in all of the tropes of melodic death metal, like I would say more or less like, you know, the Gothenburg sound, and it doesn't necessarily stand out very much. Now that isn't to say like any of it's bad. In fact, there are songs in here I really do like Divided I think is probably the most powerful song on the album. It kind of harks back a little bit further in terms of like classic melodeath. There's some more like, again, triumphant stomping rhythms. The harsh vocals actually drive the song, and the clean vocals are kind of used as just like an accent behind the growls. Like there's a lot of blending and such where they'll do harsh and clean vocals at the same time. But for the most part, I would say that this is just dominated by cleans. This one is notably different, and it adds an urgency. It adds a little bit of heft. You know, this has got riffs all over the place and great lead melodies and solos to accompany them and lush synths. Like it's, you know, very big sounding. But a lot of this lacks urgency. A lot of it kind of hangs in that melancholy sort of mood. This song kind of ramps up the energy a bit. And it's really neat because there's songs in here where you feel like you're going to get like a slightly more energetic song or a more doomy song, and then it kind of just corrects the course and gets right back into cruise control. The song Downhearted, really cool synthy build, like it's kind of like phasing in and out, and then you're launched like headfirst into like a D beat, like some very aggressive riffs. It's a really fun opening, and then it kind of just, again, corrects the course and gets back to the melancholy stuff, and we're back to singing. And while it's not bad, it kind of just hangs there. It does have some cool syncopated chugs that kind of, you know, break it up, give it a little bit of heft, but it keeps kind of, again, like auto-correcting right back to like, oh, we have to have a big triumphant chorus, or we have to have at least more clean vocals on here. And again, like the clean vocals, you know, they don't really fit here, and honestly it kind of keeps the intensity at a minimum. Like, I know melodic death metal is, again, more about melody. That's in the fucking name. But I like melodeath that actually likes to get heavy. Like, you know, like throw in something with all harsh vocals. You can still be melodic in the music itself, but there has to be at least that death metal element. And I do think there's a lot of like death metal to the music, but with all the synths and clean playing and clean vocals on here, it really is missing that edge. The last track, The Wait, had a lot of potential too. I really liked, you know, musically how that song was set up. You have some like crashing ocean waves and like an isolated clean melody, and it's like this kind of slow doomy build up, like almost kind of like Paradise Lost-ish. And then as it builds, you get very loud, clean vocals. And again, I already had issues with just sort of the tone and the intonation and, you know, just, you know, the overall feel of some of the clean vocals on here. Here they sound really exposed, and it's the delivery on here that just kind of put me off. They're very loud, and they're almost kind of like starting off almost soaring, at least within his range. And this is a more like somber, withdrawn song. Like it's a little bit quieter and moody, and it takes time to build into the heavier sections, which the heavier sections in the song are really good. But the fact that the vocals kind of start off like, you know, very loud and very projected instead of like more, you know, withdrawn and, you know, kind of like depressive, there's no room to build there. There is like a little bit of a rise before it gets into the harsher vocals, but at the same time, there's not a lot of tension built here. And with having these quiet moments and again, like more atmosphere, like you'd figure you'd want to sort of build it up a little bit. And, you know, again, like that sort of tension and release thing. And it just doesn't work here at all. Like, and it sucks because I think the song itself is actually a standout in terms of the music, which is kind of a big issue on here in terms of standouts. There aren't really many. Like a lot of this, unfortunately, is a bit flat. I think the biggest chance they took was actually getting a new vocalist in here, but musically this kind of just, you know, does a lot of the same stuff that a lot of melodeath does. And while it is done, decently, I don't think, any of this is just necessarily terrible. It's kind of dull, and the songs kind of run together a bit, with all of them having similar characteristics in terms of writing style, like, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus again. It kind of gets dull after a while. And with that kind of leads to pacing issues, because a lot of the songs kind of have similar dynamics. Like, again, there are occasionally some heavier songs that will break up the more melancholy, more dreary ones, but there's really not enough. And again, some of those, heavier songs kind of just turn into a dreary, melancholy song eventually anyway. But yeah, this album kind of just hit cruise control and stuck there for pretty much the entire 40 minutes of this. So overall, I'm going to give this 2 stars. There's a couple of songs in here I would go back to that I think were pretty well done. And again, I don't think everything on here is necessarily bad, but it's just kind of generic. Like, it is very by the numbers, melodic death metal. I think one of the main things, unfortunately, that kind of took me out of this was the change in vocal approach. I think the guy's growls are solid. Like, he's got an excellent growl. I would love to hear more of that, but the cleans, I think, need a bit of work. And, in terms of like landing that hook of a chorus, it's just not quite there yet. Like, there are definitely moments where they double his vocals or add like a bit of auto-tune, but the melodies themselves just aren't very gripping, and that, kind of goes with the music too. The music, I think, is, again, kind of, mellow death by numbers. Still, at the same time, if you like mid-era In Flames, Dark Tranquility, and, Insomnium and Omnium Gatherum to a degree, I would say check this out. Personally, I think Wolfheart is probably a better representation of Tuomas's songwriting skill and just a little bit more variety in terms of the melodeath sound that he's really good at. But this one is on the lower spectrum of okay. So, I think if you're a longtime fan of this band, you'll probably still like a good chunk of this. And if you just like melodeath in general, who knows? You might really dig it. This is just my take, but really wasn't for me. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsofmetal.com, which is currently under construction, but when it is unveiled, our Patreon link is there, as well as our store, which we will have some new designs. That's kind of coinciding with the new design of the website. But yeah, when we get our new shirts out, we will definitely do a video showing them off and probably do a giveaway with that. But currently, we have a giveaway going on for when we eventually hit 15,000 subscribers, which we are, I think, 25 away now. So yeah, that time is starting to close in terms of entering this. So all you have to do is comment on the video linked down below that is also playing automatically on our channel, and you are entered. Once we hit the number, I'm going to do a little comment randomizer and pick a winner, and that winner will win a stack of 11 CDs, and I'll probably throw in some extra stuff in there just because, fuck it, why not? This has been an awesome fucking ride. It is due to you guys, so why not give a little bit more to you guys, because you've given us so much. You've given us 15,000 subscribers, which is, again, still baffling for what we do. But thank you guys so much. It means the fucking world to us. Plenty of stuff coming. And with that, I will thank you one more time because you've been good, and we will catch you later.